Hi, my name is Emma Aspenson, and for my homeless engagement program, I am proposing the creation of a community resource kiosk in the central location of the Tulsa City County Library System. Before getting too into the details of this kiosk, I wanted to talk a little bit about why this idea came to mind. First, when brainstorming for this program, I wanted to think of something that was really realistic and completely feasible to actually be implemented at my library. I work at the central location of the Tulsa City County Library System, and so I'm somewhat familiar with our space availability, with our staffing, and a little bit with our budget. So this is an option that could very easily be implemented with a couple budget proposals for our next year. I also wanted to find something that would meet immediate needs in our patrons. We do have a pretty significant portion of our patronage being homeless people, and so I wanted to find something that we could offer them that would meet immediate needs for them. And finally, resources in Tulsa are available. There's a lot of great organizations that are doing work to improve the lives of our homeless Tulsans, but they're not always easily findable. A lot of their websites aren't fantastic, and if they do have flyers, sometimes they can be hard for people who need them to get a hold of. So I wanted to find a place that could kind of be a one-stop shop for all of the information that they really need. Okay, so let's start getting into some of the details of this program. First, I'm going to talk about the community that will be served by implementing this resource kiosk. I'm going to talk about some of the resources that are going to be provided, hopefully, at this kiosk. That will also flow into our case manager partnership and how that will hopefully play a large role in the success of this program. And finally, I'll give some more details about the feasibility of this program, some of the pros and cons that currently exist in our building structure that would make this program possible. Let's begin with the community to be served, which is the homeless population of Tulsa. As of a 2022 point-in-time study from Family and Children's Services, we have about 1,063 homeless Tulsans, and 38% of those are unsheltered. For a little more context, a 2020 data from Housing Solutions found that about 47% of our homeless population suffer from mental illness, 32% have a disability, and 27% suffer from substance abuse. Homeless Shelter Directory lists that we have about 1,730 beds as of 2019, but there's not more recent data on this, and it is probably safe to assume that that number was affected in some way by COVID. As for homeless shelters, Tulsa has about 18 shelters serving various demographics. About half of these shelters are concentrated in North Tulsa, closer to downtown, and there are much fewer resources in southern Tulsa and the outskirts of the county. Because of this, it's been my experience and the experience of my coworkers in the library that homeless Tulsans tend to congregate in downtown Tulsa and most frequently use our central location rather than our other branch locations that are further from shelters and not as easily accessed by public transit. While the library does not keep statistics on homeless patron usage, there is a consensus among staff that Central Library has the heaviest usage by homeless Tulsans. The primary purpose of the Community Resource Kiosk will be to provide information on specific organizations in Tulsa that can provide aid to our homeless patrons. This is going to include flyers, applications, and physical addresses that we can hand out to homeless patrons for organizations that provide housing assistance, organizations that are shelters or warming stations, or both. Information on food assistance, that would be both food aid and food banks. And then, of course, any relevant program information that are happening at the library. Resources will also include information on job assistance. So this will both include job fair information. There are often job fairs happening throughout the year in Tulsa. Also resume templates for people who both have job experience and do not have job experience. For this, we can also partner with our weekly job lab that we have at the library. This is 1 hour every Tuesday where we welcome people into a computer lab for job search assistance. We will also have printed instructions for technology assistance, We have a lot of patrons who need help setting up email addresses or Facebook accounts because these are ways that they can communicate without necessarily having to have a phone. Just as long as there's a public computer available, they can log on to those accounts and contact the people that they need to get in contact with. So having those printed instructions will hopefully also save some time for staff if they are overwhelmed with people needing assistance. And finally, I also hope to have bus schedules. In Tulsa, our public transit changes a lot. There's a lot of fluctuation in the bus schedule throughout the year, and it is really hard to find out what the bus schedule is because the website is just terrible. So the best way to have up-to-date bus schedule information is to have the physical flyers from Tulsa Transit. One of the most valuable resources at our library is our on-staff caseworker. She works about 30 hours a week at our central location and about 10 hours a week at our branch locations. So most of her time is spent where most of our homeless patrons are. I hope to use this kiosk as a kind of home base for her. Right now, she typically just finds an empty table on our first floor and hangs out there until somebody finds her to request help, which is typically no time at all. Having her home base be in one place will allow her to keep her handouts organized, and it will make sure our customers know where she can be found. Right now, some of the things that she helps with include applying for and receiving Social Security benefits. She has great in-depth assistance for finding family housing and really just more in-depth aid assistance than your typical librarian or customer service assistant can help with. She has much more experience and a much larger knowledge base. And I hope to kind of take advantage of that and also getting her assistance in developing some more staff trainings just so that our staff is more aware of all the resources that we have available in Tulsa. Finally, I'd like to discuss the feasibility of this project. Again, I wanted to think of a program that is realistic for the library that I work at, so this was an important aspect for me to consider. The first point here is space. Where exactly would the physical piece of furniture actually go in our library? In the picture on the right, you can see our first floor from two different perspectives. The barge shelf in the white square is exactly where I imagine our community resource kiosk can go. This is an ideal location for four reasons. One, you can't see it very well, but about 10 feet to the right of this barge is a customer service desk that is always staffed. This means that even when our caseworker is not in the building, there will always be somebody nearby the kiosk to keep an eye out. Two, it's on the first floor and it's easily visible upon entry, but it's not right at the door so as to feel exposed. Three, it's right by our public computers. It's a little hard to see in the pictures, but right under the second floor landings, there are multiple tables of public computers where patrons can go online to access aid. And finally, right behind that large staircase is a water fountain. This provides a nice noise buffer so that people can have a conversation by it and not bother anybody else or have to worry about other people overhearing their private conversation. A few other points that will affect program feasibility are staffing, material acquisition, and the furniture itself. As for staffing, I mentioned the caseworker as a key player in this already. When she's not present, our staff that cover the customer service desk nearby will also be available, and they rotate every hour so that they don't ever burn out on one area in particular. So there will always be somebody nearby the kiosk. We also have roaming circulation staff that can help guide patrons to that kiosk when they're looking for information. Next, material acquisition and furniture are where we have to start thinking a little more about budget. For material acquisition, we will have to reach out to the organizations that we promote for any informational material that they can provide. We'll also want to browse their website for flyers. I've seen that a lot of organizations will have PDF copies of their trifold flyers or just informational handouts on their website. So we'll need to find a balance of what information we can bring in from the organizations themselves and what kind of printing budget we'll have to create for printing off the information for those organizations. This is also going to be a great opportunity to have occasional donation-driven supply drives, such as for winter gear or backpacks. While the material themselves would be donated, it would be practical to obtain a couple large closable containers in which to keep donations. So that printing and any kind of materials for donation drives would be factors to consider in the budget. Finally, the furniture itself. Now, we could definitely use the barge shelf seen in the previous picture. It has plenty of surface area up top to display informational materials, as well as the shelf space on bottom for both sides, and we could keep extra supplies on the back side. The main issue with this, though, is that it's really not suited for a chair. It's not meant to act as a desk. And so if our caseworker is going to spend a lot of time there, I really want to make sure that she can be comfortable. So finding budget space for a desk would be ideal, but it would be the largest upfront investment of this program. Another investment would be to obtain a few acrylic, plastic, or metal organizations for the flyers. There's going to be a lot of paper flying around on this kiosk, and it will be really imperative to keep it well organized in order for it to be useful. So in the proposal for this program, it'll be vital to figure out kind of a near exact budget limit for the furniture as well as any fixturing or acrylic fixtures. So that was a lot of information all at once. Let's wrap it all up. We can see that the need is present in the Tulsa community. There is a significant population of homeless Tulsans, and Central Library is really the best location from which to serve them. There are resources available in Tulsa. It is just hard to find them, especially if you don't have regular access to a phone or a computer. And we can be that bridge to help people find those resources. Finally, we have one of the biggest assets that we could ask for, which is a caseworker. They could be a huge asset in this program, both in helping connect us with organizations and providing that one-on-one guidance for our patrons. Finally, this is a very feasible program for our library. We're very fortunate to have a pretty generous budget, being one of the largest libraries in our city. And so with the furniture and the materials being the main cost, this is fully within the capability of our library. I think that this would greatly improve our ability as librarians to help people find the information that they need, and it would be helping one of our biggest customer bases at Central Library in particular. So thank you so much for listening and for taking the time. I appreciate your attention. Have a great rest of your day.